It was my first ever game. I had watched various RPG live streams and was very interested in joining a campaign, so some friends and I sought out a DM since none of us knew how to run a game. At work, when we were talking about my desire to play, a coworker of mine said that he was an experienced DM and even had his own world setting that he had run in the past. He was notorious for stretching the truth, so I took his claims and level of experience with a grain of salt. However, I was eager to get a game going, so I figured I'd give him a shot. We arranged a session. My roommates and I host the game at our apartment. I played a paladin, one roommate a sorcerer, the other roommate a bard, and another coworker of mine played a fighter. The game begins, and we are dumped in the middle of an open field. None of our characters know each other, and that there are nearby NPCs being attacked by creatures that look like giant goblins, a homebrew race of the DM's design. We complete the encounter, and I RP some bullshit reason why all of our characters should stick together, since we were not really given a reason. Everyone agrees. I'm eager to get to the nearest town. We make it to the nearest town, some war-torn barricaded crater with buildings in it, and find the Adventurers Guild. We are introduced to a female commander NPC named Farah, who seems pretty rad. She seems cold and battle-hardened, and a total badass. The PCs hit it off with her, and she gives us a quest. I'm going to skip over the quest because they were all very dull. It became very evident very quickly that the DM had little prepared. Essentially, all the quests were given where go here, kill this missions, and they all took place in the open flat fields against the same giant goblin creatures, just more of them each time. It was very frustrating, but that's not the worst part of the story, so moving on. We continue to operate out of the crater town and take quests from Farah, who out of nowhere expresses interest in sleeping with every PC. The bard, of course, is the only to accept. We all think the NPC is great regardless, so as the bard and Farah are in the bard's room, we get to talking with the other NPCs around the town, and any of them seem to want to talk about is how Farah is a slut or a whore, his words, not mine. We think she's cool as shit, so we defend her, saying that what she decides to do with her body is her own business. The DM seems frustrated and tries to lure us away from Farah with male quest givers. But Farah's our homie, so we stick with her. At this point, the DM really ramps up her overt sexuality, which is fine, but it was clear to all of us that the DM wanted us to dislike her. We keep on taking quests from her. About 4 sessions into the game, we come back from a quest with the spoils of our easy victory, and Farah is just straight up naked in the Adventurers Guild and tries to seduce us. We just act if it's all normal and hand her a cut of the reward. The DM totally breaks character. His voice cracks as he asks us, "Why do you guys even like her?" After this, we can tell he doesn't want to play anymore, so we call it a day and never arrange another session. Later, I learned from other coworkers that were not involved in the game that the DM is a blatant sexist, who often talks about how all women are whores and badmouths the female employees behind their backs. Not too long after our game ended, he was fired for this very behavior. I am now in a different long-running campaign with a lot of the same people. The encounters are more varied, and the DM is not a sexist, and all is well. So to preface this is not the craziest of horror stories, and I know that it was mostly my bad for not checking what I was getting into, but I just wanted to share the story, along with my weird feeling of specific situations having to do with guys playing girl characters. A couple of months ago, my husband, who is a grad student, went off to a conference for the week, leaving me with the 2 kids. Not a problem. Happens frequently. The day he left, I got hit with a huge hankering for some D&D, so I searched for some sites and the subreddit and found a group playing a couple days later who let me in for the game via Roll20. They were part of a large group that essentially did tons of one-shots with the same character, searching groups whenever they wanted, almost like Adventurers League. They invited me to join long-term, but I prefer in-person games, and I have a long-term campaign I run with my husband and his friends, so I said nah. So I roll up my level 3, 4, 5. I do not remember. Human fighter, and I'm ready for the game. I did not have crazy high hopes. I've never had great experiences with online games, but I was happy to roll some dice. Anyway, the session starts, and I find that the 3 of us in the party are all girl characters, even though I'm the only girl player. Not a huge thing. I played with guys playing girls before. They were playing a changeling and a succubus. And I think both were rogues, though. I do not remember for certain. We spent some time hunting bears for food for the merchant caravan and we were traveling with. When we returned to the camp, the guy in charge says something about selling us something, negotiating a price. Something totally innocent I do not remember because there was a lot of giggling going on between the 3 guys. Whatever it was, the 2 other characters decide to go into his tent to seduce and rob him. So I, actual female, get to listen to 3 male strangers I have never heard before met, giggle, and RP how the seduction goes down. There is a decent amount of shapeshifting and winking and describing of sexy clothes. At one point also, the changeling was in the guise of my character and switched out when that did not work. Before I had to listen to the weirdest devil's threesome I could possibly imagine, I made some excuse about late nights partially true. It was 11 and I had a 6-week-old baby, and said bye-bye to that. I don't want to say that their fun is wrong, but man, it was uncomfortable to walk into that unknowingly. In general, I have no problem with guys playing girl characters and the other way around, but pretty much every experience I've had with it turns into some sexually charged scene where I just think, is this how these guys' sex lives are? I guess they have much more spice in their lives than I do. I, 21-year-old female, have been playing D&D for about 8 months at the time, and this was my first campaign in a setting of my own design. My table was comprised of all guys, 5 of whom are good friends of mine. One of them, we'll call him Tate, was a pretty new player. Now, Tate is the kind of guy who doesn't exactly have a filter. He got on another DM's case for using a Lego build to represent a giant Warforged suit in a boss fight. He argued a lot with more experienced players of the group, and all around had a bad attitude. He was insistent that he was not nearly as nerdy as anyone at the table and rolled his eyes when anyone talked about nerd shit, trademark. This was not a good fit for our table. The players were fighting a group of harpies that were attacking some giant beetles. Not important right now, just bear with me. And Tate was playing a college of Valor Bard, a dwarf with a thick Russian accent. It was clear that he did not know how to play a Valor Bard, because he was on the very edge of the fight and almost never attacked anything with the magical battle axe I specifically gave him. He was more interested in playing music from Spotify than actually playing the game. So, safe to say, people at the table were getting annoyed. Our cleric killed a harpy with spiritual guardians, and I described it as a beautiful angel picking the harpy up by the wings and flying into the sky with her. And Tate piped up, still in his Russian accent, "She got fucked in the ass, and the titties, and the vagina." Now, I'm not one to start shit when shit does not need to be started, but when players sit at my table, I do ask that they be a little more conscientious of the jokes that they make. So I just told him to stop. And he was like, "What? I'm just making a joke." Other players chimed in and told him that it was not funny, and he started to argue his case, but people were taking long enough with their turns, so I decided to just cut the argument off and move on. This was the kind of breaking point for Tate's relationship with our group. And eventually he left. And I have no idea he's still playing the game or not, for the sake of whichever poor nerdy women would have to play with him. I hope not. New guy joins the Call of Cthulhu campaign midway, America, 1930. First session. He spends 2 hours to choose a character, a Yakuza boss, a science experiment, a Tibetan monk, a renegade samurai, all anime characters. We likely pushed until he settled into a military tech with PTSD, a murdered family, and a trained dog. Alright. First session he played, evil bad guy says, "Whatever you do, do not push this button or I die." Whole party goes, "Seriously, inverse psychology? It's a trap." He starts going with, "I'm touching it." Dude, no! He does. It was a trap. All good NPC die, all enemies aggro, Keeper bends reality and saves players, but mission fails, words fly. We met over coffee to show him we were not angry, for real. He gets creepy over the "I'm a nice guy, but girls always go for the bad boys," then tries to hit on my girlfriend. We are both female, 28, and fucking lesbians. I joke, "Dude, she's not interested. We have a no penis rule." He goes on saying his penis is small and she'll not even notice it. Dude! We poker face before laughing about it. Second session, and last. He has to reroll his stats, claiming he did not know enough about the game before. Keeper is fine with it. 2 hours later, he has this character that has 99% shooting, 99% persuading, 99% animal training. That's it. Fine. He spends honest to God 2 hours on his own, haggling over fake money with random people. When he meets other players' characters, he talks to us like Skyrim NPC, then decides he wants to be an expert about Cthulhu. Piece of cake when he fails the sanity check and finding himself walking around with his gun. Keeper says, "You wake up. You are in an alley. You have your gun. A homeless man is begging you not to hurt him." He shrugs. I kill him. Police comes. I kill them. Keeper tries the, "There's a gate behind you." Player. Can I aim to their heads since they are driving a police car? A policeman kills his character. Why are you punishing me over a homeless man? Dude!